All right, so I am taping right now, and I have Guy Anderson, and we're talking about mud fossils. I guess we're going to be talking about the whole story behind the mud fossils, right?
We are indeed. Let me know when you're ready, and then I'll do the introduction and hit record.
Okay, I'm set to go myself, my friend. Go ahead, do your thing.
Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Welcome to the channel, Roger Spur. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, my friend. I'm glad you invited me.
Well, I've been following your work for a long time, and people have been saying to me, you must get Roger on, you must get Roger on. And a lot of people have been saying to me, do you know Roger Spur? And I said, I've been following him for years, of course I do. So I just wanted to get you on to show people what you've been doing, because it's incredible.
It's a new universe, my friend. I mean, I have the evidence to support every word I say. I'm a material scientist. I am not a guesser, basically. When I make a statement, I pretty much always have something to back me up. Now, primarily, I use physical evidence, the actual rocks that were basically alive at the time of the flood. Some of them are just the same size as us. Some of them are absolutely gigantic. And they were DNA tested, bits and pieces CAT scanned, and it was all from the Great Flood, just like they reported in the ancient texts. Everywhere, not one single society on Earth, no culture, didn't report that. They all said this happened. A giant flood, there's battles in the heavens, there was gods, there was dragons, there was giants, 100%. Now think about that. Velikovsky was the one that really did the work to gather these stories from everywhere in the world. Every culture had basically the same story. And he went around, he gathered them all. And he wrote a book called Worlds in Collision, because this catastrophe was brought about by the feared god Jupiter. This is what they wrote now. And I think I have the evidence now to support this is true. Every one of them wrote that the feared god Jupiter, who was the god in charge of the solar system, and I think he still is, sent Venus, which was a fiery comet, to hit Earth to kill the giants. And it did. And Venus then turned around and hit Mars and wiped Mars out.
You know why, Roger? What the decision was to do that?
Well, the giants were out of control. Jupiter is Zeus. He's the same guy. All right, and Zeus was the god of this solar system, and he was in charge. He took over from Kronos. All of these things were written. Now, you have seen the dragon in the desert, is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. So you saw he was attacking the fish.
Yeah.
You agree with that? This is
yeah, absolutely. You can see the scale.
No question whatsoever. It's there, 100% exactly identical to what was written in Apollodorus, which was in the BC era, a couple hundred BC. He wrote exactly that Typhon, who was the dragon, attacked the gods that changed themselves into animals to try to get away from him. Because they said he was so big, his head often brushed the stars. And he was the offspring of Gaia, who was Earth, mated with Tartarus, who was hell, and came out with this Typhon to avenge the god. Her children were killed by the gods. Her children were the giants. They were out of control, and they were eating the people. They were eating each other. There was nothing to eat. they were just way out of control. So Zeus said, I got to do away with them. They got to be done. We're going to wipe them out. And they told Noah about it. He's going to be sending a guy to do the job. You better get ready. And they said, create a chest. We call it the ark. But when you go through all these different texts, the new Nag Hammadi texts, they're stunning. How unbelievable, similar to the Bible, except the Bible left out all the giants. I mean, when I say giants, they talked about giants, but they got no idea about giants. Giants, to me, are 1,000 miles tall, at least, and they're everywhere. Have you seen my videos about the comets and the asteroids and Bennu and all that? Those are body parts. Absolutely 100% certainty. And I think they now realize that the things I've been talking about, when I start blabbing, I get carried away, you know. I can't help myself because nobody listens to it. So I just keep slamming and slamming. Then I start getting nasty. and eventually they come around to try to cover themselves. So now they're talking about, because, you know, did you see the one I did on the moon?
No, I've not seen that one.
Oh, the moon is a tendon enthesis. All the moons are. They're the tiniest little thing in us. You need a microscope to see them. And those are, it's just the way it is. The Psyche, that asteroid, all right, which they're on a mission to it right now, because it is made out of metals, primarily. And metals are in the blood because it is a heart. All right, it's the same as Bennu. You saw the one about Bennu, right?
Yeah.
All right. It's got muscle sarcomeres. Those are the little pinchers for the muscles. It's got the tendon anthesis, the membranes that surround the muscle sarcomeres. It has all the DNA, the RNA, the uracil, it's just everything, 100%. And they don't disagree with that. They say, well, maybe something like that could have brought life to Earth. When you look at it, it's a heart. You can see it's a heart. And so is Psyche. They're identical. And they're on their way now. But they did bring that piece back from Bennu, and it's been here for 2 years. They just can't deal with the reality of the universe that we live in. I mean, we are just like microscopic. We're basically like bacteria in a universe that is extremely large. Now, the heart that I'm talking about, Bennu, is identical to Psyche, only it's very small compared to Psyche. Psyche is 177 miles wide. All right, you got me? 177 freaking miles. I had somebody, I can't remember whether they were talking about that one or one of the other comets, because they're all body parts, every single one of them. And I have them here, meteorites here. No question whatsoever, they're body parts. And the blood is still in them. Because when they come out of space, either they cook and explode and then you just get little bits and pieces, or they stay intact. Depends on how they come through the ionosphere, which is a place that cooks them. If they come in a certain direction and they're going with it or against it, or if it's during the day or if it's at night, are they going with the rotation of the Earth? Do they just snap right through it? All those things are determinant of what you will end up with for a meteorite. But every one I have seen, every single one of them, has blood in them. Every one of them. And I have them here. And I have tested them for the catalase reaction, and they have it. So it still has enzymes in it, which means any living thing there is, 100% of living things have an enzyme created by bacteria, because that's the only place you get enzymes. And that bacteria it gives off this enzyme that gets rid of oxygen. It's called catalase. And I put hydrogen peroxide. If you put it on top of blood, it bubbles up like crazy, because it adds extra oxygen. Blood does not want that extra oxygen. So that's the reaction by that enzyme. I'm probably confusing everybody, but what it does is it removes oxygen, and I put it on my meteorites, and zip, they're 100% certainty they're biological. So I'm sorry, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't. Well, earlier on I was going to say, you've obviously been researching this for a long time, but sort of mainstream academia just doesn't want to hear a lot of it.
Dead silence. Nobody has challenged me. Zero challenges in 15 years. Now, I presented this to Yale in 2013, 2014, 10, 12 years ago. And I presented it to them, and I said, this is what's called fascia facilitated fossilization. And what happened was, in this great flood, it was a boiling hot flood, and it stripped all the fleshy, like you boil off a body part in when you cook it, the fleshy stuff boils off, and you end up with the stuff that's wrapped in the tendon and the enthesis and so forth, in the membranes. So that's why the stuff preserved in the manner it did, because it was held with flesh around it, but in the manner of boiled off mud. All mud is eroded flesh. You hear me? That's a fact. That's what mud is nothing more than eroded ancient flesh.
So the whole earth is covered in eroded flesh.
Exactly. That's all it is. The redder, the bloodier. Australia is literally a freaking scab. It's just 100% blood. I've never seen anything like it before in my life. It's just solid blood. Ayers Rock, which is called Uluru in the Aboriginals, is nobody's ever going to explain it. This gigantic red rock.
Yeah.
If you look at the details, I'm looking at it, so I'm studying that thing probably a couple of years. Because you get another nibble here. Nobody's got all of the details. I've compiled more details in one place than anybody in the entire history of humanity, because I could just keep nibbling, keep assembling. And I kept finding this all the heart muscle was there. The tubing was there. You got to look at it from this way, from that way. You can see the rope muscles. You can see everything. And then I realized it's about maybe 100th of the size of its actual size. That's just a little tiny piece, Ayers Rock. You know how big that sucker is? And that's like a pimple compared to the actual size. Ayers Rock goes hundreds of miles up. And, and then I followed it, and then I've done videos on that too. Nobody really wants to know, or they don't want to be associated with thinking so far out of the box that they're considered crazy. And that's where I've been my whole life. I don't put up with anything, man. If I can't prove it somehow, if you can't prove it to me, I was always against religion, against Jesus, against God, against all that nonsense, the crazy people. Well, no, I was wrong. But I had no evidence. What do you do if you have no evidence? It's either you believe it or you don't believe it. And I don't believe anything I don't have any evidence for, so I didn't believe it. And now I have evidence supports this literally 100% of what was written, and the stuff that is supported now is so far over the edge that, it's beyond amazing, my friend. Go ahead, I can see you.
What got you started on this journey?
Well, the actual honest truth is my whole life I have been a troubleshooter. I fixed electronic things, and I built electronic devices and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm deep into chemistry and physics and, you know, how material things. And my whole life was like that. So I have a very good, deep understanding of biology, chemistry, or the whole 9 yards. I did all that stuff when it was first quantum. And I had my own theory, and it was dipoles. I had said 100% of everything's made out of dipoles. So that's my background. I understand chemistry. I understand everything in science 100%. 100%. So, crazy thing is, I retire, I'm doing nothing, I'm just hanging around. But I woke up one morning, I said to my wife, I said, something in the woods is calling my name. And I'm not kidding you, this is actual fact. It's crazy sounding, but, and so I went, and I had some property. I had about 7 or 8 acres of property here. And I saw stone walls in New England. They cleared off the fields and they made these stone walls, and the stone walls are all over my property. So I go out in the woods and I start looking around, and after a while I find a giant fingertip. And I mean giant. When I say giant, 3 feet long, a fingertip, 3 feet long. Still had the fingernail and the fingerprints on it. So that freaks me out. Now, I start, and then I found a whole bunch of other stuff, all kinds of stuff. I mean, I've shown over and over and over all the things. I've got hundreds of things. I have a hair follicle I'm going to hold up right here. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Yeah.
Let me see if I have a hard time trying to find the camera. Here it is.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, that right there, that's the tip. The hair comes out. There's a sebaceous gland, and that little area right there is where the muscle attached. And the other side is where the sebaceous gland is. Right there, that globby looking stuff.
Yeah, and that is just one hair follicle.
That's one hair follicle. Now, a guy sees this on my channel. He sends me a picture of a hair follicle exactly the same. It's over 2 feet wide.
Really?
Yes. I have
2 feet wide for a hair follicle.
for one hair follicle. And the sebaceous glands are hanging off it, no question whatsoever, 100% certainty it is. And it was in front of a doctor's office or something, as the centerpiece of a bunch of little stones around it. And he went right up to it. You could see the hair coming right out of it. I mean, no question whatsoever, 100% certainty. So, I mean, these things, and I have other stuff. It's just beyond, you know, it's exactly what they said. They said, and even Devil's Tower. You know what Devil's Tower is, right?
Yeah.
I'm doing a video on that today. As a matter of fact, I have a video about that I did 7 years ago. And I have it on here right now about, hold on one second. Yeah, here, Devil's Tower. I have on my, I have queued up if we can see, if you want to watch that. I don't know if we got time.
Yeah. How long is it on for?
Well, it's only 5 minutes or something, 10 minutes.
Yeah, pop it on, Roger. Yeah, please.
Let me see if, can you see that? No.
No, not yet.
Oh, I got to share my screen or something?
Yeah.
Hold on. Share screen.
Yeah, should be. Yeah.
All right, now I want to share a window. Let's see. Here it is, okay. All right, can you see that?
Yes, yeah, see it fine.
Okay, good. Now, this was from 7 years ago I did this. I'll start right from the beginning. That's Devil's Tower. People you don't understand the different shots. Let me start it right from the beginning. If I can get it back there. All right. My claim,
Okay.
yeah, now that's Devil's Tower. Now, there we go. Okay, you see it good now?
Yeah, see,
All right.
fine.
You see the top area up here where my cursor's going? That is, I call that the wrinkle zone, which is where tendons are under tension. They're always pulling. When they snap, they break flat as a pancake and they create a wrinkle zone because of the release of the tension at that specific point. Now, I'm going to just play this and let's see what happens here. Okay, it's Roger once again, Mudfossil University with Devil's Tower, and in less than 2 minutes I will prove to you that this is the foot from some giant creature, and all of the anatomical details are here to prove this. First thing is it's cut flat as a pancake at the top. That is called the abrupt transition. This wrinkly zone up here is the zone where tendinous fibrils, which are these, which are under extreme pressure, they are tendons, they wrinkle at the top. These fibrils are all CaCO3 porphyritic limestone, not marine limestone. Porphyritic means they have other inclusions in them, minerals that are part of connective tissue. The reason that they're separated is fascia. All right, the reason that they're hex is because they're hex. The reason that they're separated. All right, I just want to make one inclusion here. As tendons come down, they change from the rope, which is way back here, then they go like a square, then they go to hex and so forth all the way down until they reach these tiny fibrils. And at the end of these tiny fibrils, there is literally hundreds of thousands of them in one single tendon. Now listen to this, listen. It is because of what's called the fascia. They come down into tiny little fibers. That's just the nature of tendons, and they are CaCO3, the same thing that limestone is, CaCO3, calcium carbonates. All right, this tells the whole story. When the tendons break, they make that little wrinkly zone. That's the abrupt transition. They break literally flat as a pancake. These are the fibrils. That is the ball that is in the ground. That's just the way it is, and that is what is at Devil's Tower, and they are all over the earth. Whenever you see that wrinkled transition at the top, that was a tendon. Okay, this is called HD drone video of Devil's Tower, Wyoming. Now, look at what you're seeing here. There's the foot, there's the heel. It comes out this way. All right, I just want to make another inclusion here. People don't see from the sideways like that. You can see the damn thing is a foot. And that is right there. That is only the Achilles tendon. That is the tiny little strap that runs up from the back of your heel. All the rest of this is the foot. And all that red stuff out there is the guy's body. Now, and I show it in pretty good detail, I think. Here goes. Noto. All this red stuff is all blood. That's all from bloody erosive tissues. There's a big difference between this, which is the limestone CaCO3 mineralized structural components of your body, and these fleshy components. All right, here's Devil's Tower. Now there's the Devil's Tower. That was that big foot. Now look at this. You see this down here? Nobody ever noticed this? This is not something you see every day. That's a crosshatch of a tissue type of muscle. So that's what it is. And it's all over the place here. I mean, this is not just in one spot. The guy died, and the stuff that erodes fell over and eroded, and some of it is seen. Okay, just quickly to finish up, this is Mudfossil University, which is the home of truth throughout the world, and literally the only home of truth in the university system right now. We don't adhere to dogma. We don't listen to Einstein's theory of E equals mc squared when he says that light has no mass, and therefore light would have no energy. So there's so much that's wrong. It's time to pay attention to the things that are wrong and think about them. And that's what we do here. And up here we have at Mudfossil University a plethora of videos, and Max Planck and Harvard University have confirmed mudfossil DNA. Harvard has confirmed our light research, done the exact same experiments that we sent to them a year or so ago. Everything in this video arena here on Mudfossil University is confirmed, and we stand behind every word, and it's never been challenged. That's the key. It's never been challenged. I say that if I send these experts my evidence, and I mean evidence, not no guesses, evidence, and they don't respond, then it's confirmed. Because they won't respond, because they have their self-interest. In my opinion, that's just a fact. And that's my opinion, and so in this point, this was 7 years ago, and you could see that I was pretty frustrated at this point, and that's never changed. So
yeah,
it's unbelievable. But anyway, that's the story about the mudfossils. Now let me stop sharing here.
Thank you. Thanks for that. So when you've tried to talk to Harvard and Yale, you just I guess in Johns Hopkins as well.
Yes, correct. Yeah,
you just hit? Do you hit a wall?
Oh yeah, solid wall. I gave all my stuff to Yale, DNA tests, CAT scans. I showed all the specimens, all that stuff. They wouldn't let me bring them down to Yale. I'm only 15 minutes away. And Derek Briggs at Yale refused to examine my specimens and said, no, they can't be real. There's no such thing. Bones don't do that, and yada, yada, yada. I said no, and I gave him all my evidence. I have all the stuff, the emails and everything from him from 2015. And I wrote a paper in 2015. Hold on a second. Here it is right here. Let me share my screen again. And this would be... Hold on a second. I gotta find it if I can find it here.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Oh, here it is. All right, I was very frustrated at this point when I wrote this paper. Fascia facilitated fossilization. All right, you can see this all right?
Yeah.
All right, so this was 2015. I had already given Derek Briggs at Yale all the information, and I have all the emails, and we went back and forth, and he just basically shut me off and said, no, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Well, at the same time, I contacted NASA, because they have the same thing on Mars as we have here on Earth. There's no question about it. I showed them all of this stuff. Well, ends up, somehow, and I don't know how, but NASA ends up getting together with Yale to see about fascia-facilitated fossilization for soft tissue preservation. So here, I go down here to fascias, the coating, and I do the whole thing about how it's a giant collagen, keratin webs, and it's a giant system, which is something nobody even knew about. They didn't even know this layer existed, which is the fluid-filled highway. And down here somewhere I say, here it is right here. Fascia is a tubular fluid-filled fabric network. And then I go through all about how it is. And the doctors just called it fuzz. They didn't even know what it was. I discovered this. And then in 2018, they wrote a paper from a guy down in the New York University taking credit for discovering this layer that I had, and his paper was almost identical. Now, the Yale paper that was written was virtually identical to my paper. Hold on one second. Let me see if I can find it.
Lost you there for a moment. I don't know what happened.
I know. I jumped over to this other screen. I'm going to. I have to stop sharing here. Now I'm going to share again, and this time I'm going to show you Yale's paper. Now this is a year after I submitted all this stuff to Derek Briggs at Yale. They wrote this. This is Yale News. You can see this, right?
Yeah.
They're saying they're calling cementing a theory about the sea creatures of the Ediacara biota. Ediacara biota just means soft tissues creatures from Australia. They didn't have to go there. They could have come 15 minutes down the street. I have them here. Here's what they call it. Look at this. Earth's earliest life forms, earliest community of complex sea creatures lived in a warm, slimy, planetary petri dish, nurtured a broad array of exotic species. Well, they claim, yes, all of these things were here, but then they were only slimy things, so they can go with the evolution. They say these creatures existed before there was bones or teeth or anything. I'm going to read you this thing. It's only a 3-minute read. They're showing slimy little, slimy little things. Listen to this. Earth's earliest community of complex sea creatures lived in a warm, slimy planetary petri dish. The whole world was covered. It nurtured a broad array of exotic species, yet we likely wouldn't know about it at all, scientists say, if not for a quirk in the chemistry of ancient oceans. Let me explain that chemistry. The Earth was hit by Venus. When that happened, the whole oceans overwhelmed everywhere, and this was all written about in the ancient texts as well. When that happened, the siliceous ooze, which you can look up, is silicon, came up from the ocean floors. There's a couple of miles deep of this siliceous ooze. It's 2.5 times heavier than water. It sinks to the ocean floor, and it came up, and that's what created the mud fossils, because they're all silicon. Silicon played a big, that's what, quartz veins and all that stuff. And then it sunk again. It's gone now. It's a quirk. Why did this happen? Now listen to this. They're taking credit for my work. This is a year after I gave this stuff to Yale, to all the people at Yale, everybody. A Yale-led research team found the Ediacara biota, which means these soft, slimy creatures, a collection of marine fossils. Now listen to this, found in sandstone around the world, which means the entire world was covered at one time. It recorded the operation of an unusual mechanism, preserved impressions, no, they're not impressions, they're the whole creatures, of soft bodies for hundreds of millions of years. No, this was 3,500 years ago. The finding appears in journal Geology. They won't let me publish, so I could only publish in academia, but I have a year earlier published. Now, and listen to what they say. The Ediacara biota takes its name from a fossil deposit in South Australia. I'm 15 minutes down the street. The fossil, it's just amazing. The fossils of this Ediacara biota are found worldwide. Now, worldwide. How could that happen unless the world was covered with an ocean? And they say in range, rocks ranging 540 to 580 million years old. That's ridiculous. The creatures themselves were small as a few millimeters, the creatures now, and as large as 1 meter, and lived in dense, diverse communities on the seafloor, which covered the entire world. They don't understand. They are trying to convert this out from my giants, because that's what freaked them out at Yale. Derek Briggs said, "Oh, you must be a creationist." I said, "What are you talking about, creationist?" I says, "I got the evidence. I got DNA. I got CAT scans. I got specimens." And then he just shut me off. Now, many of them, and this is their words, they're talking about they're living in dense communities on the seafloor. Many of them are outright bizarre in appearance. Yes, they are, and do not resemble any organism alive today. These giants, dragons, I agree, said Lydia Tarhan, who they named some wing of Yale after for making this huge discovery. She's a postdoctoral fellow at Yale, first author of the study. Derek Briggs was the other one. He's the one I originally approached. Now, we would like to understand the relationship to the complex animals that evolved shortly after. Listen to this. The Ediacara organisms are some sort of failed evolutionary experiments. Are the Ediacara organisms some sort of failed evolutionary experiment? Yes, God slammed them. Or do they include the ancestors of animals that subsequently colonized the ocean? They say these things were wiped out. Yes, the giant flood wiped out a lot of them, not all of them. And it's created all my mud fossils. And I mean...
And they're putting it back millions and millions of years, aren't they? And you're saying we're talking 3,500 years ago.
Exactly correct. And everybody on Earth had the same story. 3,500 years ago, there was a great calamity where a fiery comet was born from the feared god Jupiter. That's what they reported. And it struck Earth, and then it came back around and hit Mars and wiped Mars out. The Mars Valerianus Trench is wider than the United States, and it is torn. Mars is a red planet because it's dead, has no magnetic field, no atmosphere, no moisture. It's ripped and toasted. But it did have the same stuff we have here on Earth. So now listen to this. They're saying after all these creatures were killed, they want to know if they have any relation to these creatures today. A big part of the answer involves figuring out how these fossils were able to form. I showed how they formed. And I told Derek Briggs how they formed was from this nucleophilic substitution and invasion during these great floodwaters. Anyway, the animals themselves were entirely soft-bodied. They lived before the evolution of shells, teeth, or bones. That's what they're saying, which are typically the only parts of an organism to become fossilized. They know this is not true now. This goes back to 2016. But they know, they even actually dropped the name of geology at Yale. They took it off, there's no more geology at Yale. It's called planetary science now. There is no such thing as geology, it's biology that turned hard. Now, the fossil photo from the Ediacara biota, what the researchers realized, they said, was the oceans during that time were much richer in dissolved silica. Not at that time, at that instant when it hit Earth and it swished all that stuff up. It enabled the transformation of loose sand. No, it was mud. It was eroded flesh called mud, not sand, around the animals to turn them into rock over a matter of hours or years. No, I told them it was very fast, but certainly not hours. But in years, yes. I made some mud fossils, but not like when they turn hard, it's stone. It takes a little longer. But they say it enabled the transformation of loose sand around the animals into rock to occur over a matter of hours or years rather than the usual time frame of thousands to millions of years. Have you ever heard that?
No.
No. This is all the Itacara biota. This is them quotations. Listen to this. The organisms were rapidly buried by sand during underwater storm events, Tarhan noted. This process of cementing the sand grains around them must have happened rapidly, because otherwise, by the time the carcasses rotted away, the sand bearing them would have simply collapsed into the hollow left by the erstwhile carcass. The team concluded this research using detailed microscope-based techniques, which is what I used. The researchers were able to measure the elemental composition of cements on a micron scale, which I did. Here it is right here. Derek Briggs was the guy I gave all this information to a year before. And then I wrote my paper. Now all of this stuff is through them, right down the street from me, 15 minutes. He's the professor.
So he's taken your work and created a backstory to it that suits the narrative.
To try to make it seem like they were only slimy creatures, and that supports evolution. Now listen to this. Listen to who supported this. The research was supported in part by National Science Foundation, Earth Sciences Postdoctoral Fellowship, a grant from the American Philosophical Society, Lewis and Clark Fund, NASA Exobiology Grant, a NASA Postdoctoral Fellowship, and the Foundations of Complex Life, NASA Astrobiology Institute. I showed all the things that are on Mars were biology. It's just biology. And I sent that to NASA at the same time I sent it to Yale. And how did they end up going to NASA? Going to Yale.
So did you...
Is that just a coincidence? Go ahead. I'm sorry, go ahead.
What sort of response did you get from NASA?
I can't remember, but I don't think any. I think they've considered me a nut job. But I sent them so much evidence that it can't be denied. It just absolutely can't be denied. But it's so over the top that, it's just like
3,500 years ago, a cataclysmic event took place.
Correct.
And do you think that wiped everything out?
Yes, correct. It wiped out. It was designed to wipe out life on Earth. And it did a pretty good job, but not just Noah survived, but he was the one who was tipped off. And I believe this is all true. I believe that's an absolute fact. The destruction was a product of Jupiter, who was Zeus, wanting to wipe out the things that he was the one who created this mess. Zeus was a sexual god that came down to have sex with the women on his Mount Olympus and all these places up. He had all these palaces, sex palaces, and he came down, he had sex with everything that he could think of to have sex with, and created all these crazy creatures and giants and monsters. I think he had sex with all kinds of animals, and that's why you see these bird-headed and crocodile-headed things. And I mean, that was the story about they came down and they broke all God's laws. Their DNA did not work. The kids the kids grew into giants that were miles tall, just as exactly what Enoch said in these ancient texts, which were removed from all of the ancient stories because they were just too much. It's too much for the average mind. You say that and people just start laughing at you. They don't even look. And that's what's happened for 15 years.
So do you think then, sort of going back 3,500 years ago when this happened, that then Noah, he literally did start again, and that we are descendants from that time?
Yes. However, it wasn't just Noah. There was a lot of them survived. And that's where the sea peoples came from. Sea peoples came from all over the world. They sort of got back together. I think they were the Atlanteans because they were seafarers anyway. But anyway, all that stuff, they came back, but it was real tough. Velikovsky reported that the asteroid, comet, meteor, whatever you want to call it, it turned out to be Venus, a fiery comet the size of Earth, hit us. It boiled off our atmosphere, all kinds of things. It burnt almost every bit of oxygen. He said that they couldn't start fires after the flood. It was so devoid of oxygen, they almost, or couldn't start fires, or just barely could start them. Now, think about this. You know about all the Copper Age, right?
Yeah.
The Bronze Age, the Iron Age. Why? Why didn't they just go to the Iron Age? They couldn't. They didn't have enough oxygen.
Right.
They could only get hot enough. They could only get hot enough to get copper, which is you can extract it at a very low temperature, and then they could get more and more oxygen, and they were using bellows and all that stuff as the plants came back. But originally they had no oxygen. Velikovsky said they couldn't even start fires. Imagine that.
How did they breathe?
It was, I guess it must have been pretty tough. You know, I mean, you know, I don't know what to say. But there was probably enough oxygen to support life, but, you know, I don't think you do a lot of whole running around. You're not going to run any marathons or anything, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
so where does this fit in with like Graham Hancock, who talks about the Younger Dryas period, about what 10,500 years ago? So is that a different event, or do you think he's sort of following a mainstream narrative more so? What do you think?
I don't know really what he does say. To be perfectly honest with you, I don't. I know I've heard about him, but I don't know what what does he say about? Can you give me a quick?
He's talking about. Well, he basically say that 10,500 took place about 10,500 years ago, and that was what wiped out Atlantis.
All right, he's saying 2,500.
10.5.
Oh, 10.5.
Yeah.
All right, here's the way I date everything. There's 3 layers. It's called from the Triassic. They say it goes back 250 million years ago. Remember the Triassic? There's a red bed, a gray clay, and a black cap. The red bed is nothing more than boiled flesh. It's eroded, boiled flesh, and it's a red bed. Worldwide. The Triassic is 100% of the world has the same layer. Red bed, then gray clay. Some places it's greenish. It depends on how much foliage was in that area, because the bottom layer is bodily flesh. The next layer up is primarily, you know, plant life and so forth that settled on top of there. It was all boiled off in the Great Flood, which was boiling hot. It was boiling. It wasn't just a flood. And then on top of that, all the black cap is the fallout. Now, I have a human footprint in the middle of all 3 of those. In the middle of those 3 layers, all that 3 stuff happened within 24 hours. It was, you know, not 24 hours, but it was within months. These 3 layers accumulated on top of themselves. And this guy was running for his life in the middle of those 3 layers, and he pushed the gray clay down through the red bed, so they both had to be wet at the same time. And then the black cap came and sealed the top. I have those pictures. I can show that. Hold on a second.
Oh, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, let me stop this one. And now let me share my screen. Let's see. I thought I had it. Hold on. Let me bring it up. Hold on.
Yeah, no problem at all.
And they refused to look at this too. All right, here. All right, here it is. You see this?
Yep.
All right. This right here. And I have these no-toes, which are a different human. I don't know what they are. Nobody will DNA test them. But they're like human footprints, human feet. That's a human foot. It's basically a human foot. This spot right back here is where the fibula, which is the second bone, attaches. And there's no question it's a foot. Now, this right here is a human footprint. And it's 100% certain it's human. Or human-ish. Now, it's pushed this gray clay, which should have been on top of this red bed. This is gray clay, and it's pushed down through the red bed. So this red bed was wet. The gray clay was wet because his footprint is impressed in here. And then this black cap was on top of the footprint. So you got gray clay, red bed, which would have been the whole wide surface here, would have been red bed. Then there should have been a gray clay on top, a whole wide layer of that, which there was. This guy stepped through it, pushed it down through the red bed. So they had to be both wet at the same time. There's absolutely no question about that. And then the black cap, which is black, came on top, flipped upside down, was up on top of this. And that's right, and I am 6 miles away from Dinosaur State Park. They have the same thing, dinosaur prints. They refuse to look at this. They won't look at it. I said, I have a footprint in the same stuff you have, the Triassic stuff, and it's human. I said, can I bring it to you look at it? No, I only do dinosaur footprints. I said, are you kidding me? You won't look at it? Nope. Imagine that. Unbelievable.
Because it throws everything out, I suppose, doesn't it? It throws all of their research and all their beliefs out the window, I guess.
It sure does. These are lungs. That's a human lung. That's been DNA tested, CAT scanned, everything. And blood comes out of them. This one here has just completely changed to silicon. And you're talking about Atlantis, and I have the draining of the Sahara out right through Atlantis a long time, well, I don't know, 10,000 years ago. Like I say, I date everything by, is there the Triassic on top of that Atlantis area, or was it under? In other words, you know the dragon and the, hold on, let me show that real quick. We're going to run out of time here in a second.
Is it the dragon and the fish?
Yeah, but I need to show you something that will make sense. Hold on. Can we overrun this, or 1 hour is it?
Yeah.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, we're all right.
Let me...
I'm struggling a little bit. I've got flu or a cold or something. I keep muting it to blow my nose or sneeze.
Well, don't
fighting off something.
Don't sneeze into the microphone. I can't catch it. All right, here we go. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not. You don't see Google Earth, do you?
No. At the moment, we just got your screen with the lungs. It's changing now.
Okay, let me get back to here. Now, I am going to share the screen, and this is going to be... There we go. Okay. Boy, I tell you, I'm getting good at this. I usually have all kinds of trouble. Now, you can see this, right?
Yep.
All right, here we go. We got the dragon up here at the top. Runs all the way across North Africa. And you're familiar with this. And people have Google Earth. They can come up and look at it. You don't believe me? Come up and look at it. These are the dragon's scales.
Yeah.
There's his throat. And his throat was cut right down here by Zeus with his great and mighty sword. There's the red and the black blood, which is, every Mudfossil person understands the red and the black is blood. Now here's Typhon's head, and that's who he is, Typhon. And he's spitting all his nastiness And it's literally on fire, basically. It almost looks like it's actually fire. And it's coming down and hitting on top. Look at that. Doesn't that look like fire to you?
Yeah, yeah.
I can't explain it. I can't explain, and I can't explain how they could have been alive here and eating and doing whatever they were doing. But here's the fish, and here's the scales, and here's his fin up at the top, and he's spitting down at it, and he got him all the way down to here with his venom. And listen, watch this. It ate right through the scales down into the vascular network. You see that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's arteries, veins, capillaries. Yeah. Nobody's ever seen this much detail. You see this? These are, you can't see this. There's no way they can even see this. This is the arteries. They can see those, obviously. They can see the little branches. They can see down to here where it comes down to the capillaries. But then you get down into the capillaries. And you see what's on top of the capillaries? You see these little, tiny little lines? You see those?
Yeah, yeah.
Those are the lymphatic system. They never even knew this existed. This is that fluid-filled highway as I was talking about in my paper. This is what gathers up all the lymph as it's being squirted down through the capillaries into the black ones, which are the veins. The veins bring it back into the heart system and runs through the liver and the kidneys and the lungs and all that business. It came down and ate right through there. And then it tried to fix itself by trying to come over here. Look at this. This is where this venom, you see the venom, the green stuff? Nasty, 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 nasty. Now, what's going on below that? You can see this, buff colored looking stuff. That's the lymph.
Yeah.
The body somehow is directing that lymph to gush against this. That's not just your normal flow of lymph. And it's picking up all of that nasty, nasty, nasty green stuff. And it's bringing that nasty green stuff down here through its lymph ducts to the lymph nodes. You've ever heard of lymph nodes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lymph node cleans up the debris that's in the lymph fluids. The lymph fluid brings down trash. Well, in this case, that trash is toxic. You see it? That's the trash it's bringing down to the lymph node. And here it goes. Pow. It's coming down all of these branches, and it's hitting all the lymph nodes in a row. Here's what happens. It comes in on this side, pink and with all the nasty stuff, and it's supposed to come out this side nice and pink again. It doesn't. It's dead. It's coming out brown. Dead. You see when this comes in? There's filters. You see the filters?
Yeah.
You see all those filters? Those filter out the big things, and they're supposed to keep them out and let the little stuff come in, and then the enzymes eat away at all this big stuff. Well, it can't do it. So instead of coming out pink like this, it's supposed to come out pink like that. It's coming out dead. There's no pinkness to it anymore. It can't do its job. You're dead. That's your immune system, is that lymph fluids. You kill your lymph nodes, and you can't clean your body. And they're all dying. They all have the same thing, and that's because of that invasion. That was written about. I didn't make this up. This was, you read Apollodorus 1.6.3. And you read Apollodorus, it'll knock your socks off. And everything I read there. Now, you talk about Atlantis. When this event happened, I believe this was the draining of the Sahara. And this whole thing was an ocean here. And it drained out at the same time I believe this event happened. And you can see some of the stuff ran over the top of the fish here. And it all ran out over the top of what I think was Atlantis right here, the eye of the Sahara. This fits exactly. And you can see it's just mud ran out. You can see it running out, you see it? And it piled up here and made it the Cape Verde Islands. And eventually it piled up and it skirted off to the side. This is what they call an alluvial plain. It's flat as a pancake because it's just runoff of mud. And Plato said they will never speak of mud again. So much mud ran out over the top of this. Now, listen to this. You can you see what I'm talking about? Why I would say that looks like it's running off?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like it is. It looks like it's flowing away.
Exactly. It's running right out, just like you poured a bucket of water and let it run out over the edge. Now, this fully looks like it could have been Atlantis. Now, what would, if it was in the ocean, which it would have been in the ocean before, and the gates right here, the straits, watch where I'm going to go. From Atlantis here, which would have controlled this straits. People never talk about this. That's a straits. A straits means
it is
an entrance from one body of water to another. And this would have been the ocean going out, and this was coming in. And I believe they had garrisons right here, right in this area. And of course it was all washed out, so there's virtually nothing left there, but it looks to me like there was some kind of structure here. Maybe, I don't know, that's just a guess. But I can tell you one thing, this is not a guess, that is a straits.
Yeah.
And around that, it ran out over here, see? That's where the ocean broke through. Ran right over the top of Atlantis. Well, they say Atlantis collapsed. There's a lot, nobody knows for sure what happened here, but I can tell you what. Atlantis, this is exactly what I had been looking at. Atlantis. And Atlantis...
that looks like the images we're shown of Atlantis. When people describe it, the depictions look identical to that.
Yes, and not only that, watch this. Don't forget, now this was in the ocean. Look at what you got surrounding this. Those could have all been boat docks. You see it?
Yeah.
Now, this is an actual eye. This is not just something that looks like an eyeball. This is an eyeball. I'm serious. This is an eyeball. And these are all the little attachments to make your eye be able to focus. I'm not kidding you. But it looks to me like, even though it is an eyeball, they could have used these as channels coming in and had little houses or something here. Or, you know, I mean, this was a big operation, Atlantis. So you go from ring to ring to ring till you get to the center. Now, I followed this very carefully. Now, you remember I told you that I got the message to go look in the woods and I found the giants?
Yeah.
All right.
Finger. Yeah, with the nail.
You remember that? All right. Now, I also got a message when I started searching on the giants that said, and I don't know where it came from, it popped up and said, these things are for you to see and for others as a test. And I just freaking dropped to the floor, man. And then somehow it went away, and I never could figure out where that message came from. Nothing like that exists on the internet. These things are for you to see and for others as a test. So this is like 2012. I start talking about this stuff as reality, like giants, you know, because I had the giants, I had them in my hands. And the test, nobody would take it. Nobody would take the test. So hold on, stop sharing. Hold on, let me get out of this.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, here we go. So nobody would take the test. And I was really, I mean, people were telling me I should see somebody, I needed help, you know, all kinds of stuff, really very vile stuff too, you know, not nice, not pleasantly met at all, by anybody, my family members, anybody. So with the evidence I had, if I didn't have the evidence, I would understand. But with the evidence, they refused to look. They would, and I got to be honest with you, not a one of them still will look. Not one of them. They haven't looked at any of my videos for 15 years. Even my wife, she won't look at my videos. They don't want to see it. Imagine that.
Why do you think that is?
They can't handle the truth, and once it changes so much in your. We're in a 100%. I'm serious. A 100% new universe. Not just wow, rocks were once alive. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean when they were once alive? Well, guess what? They were giants. Well, what does that mean? Well, guess what? A lot of the things that were written were true. Well, what does that mean? Well, there was dragons. Well, what does that mean? Body parts in space. There was giant battles in the heavens. Well, what does that mean? It means all these God things and all the texts that were written, you got to start all over again. And I mean over, right from the beginning. And if you think you're smart, every one of them, I got PhDs in my family. And I really, it was a nasty encounter. And she's a teacher to PhD, and that was it pissed me off really bad. And she was pissed off too that I forced her to see. And I said, you come here, and she was staying at my house. I said, you're going to see this because you're here in my house. And she said, no, I don't want to see it. You're going to see it. I showed her the dragon. Now listen to this. Because I said, there's dragons here, the fishes here, all of that stuff. She wouldn't look at it. Finally, I forced her to look at it. And her response was, I said, if you won't talk about this, you're just happy deluded. I call them PhDs, perfectly happy deluded. So she said, they got PhDolia. So I said to her, you're perfectly happy deluded. She says, no, you're not. You're the one who's deluded. I said, how can you say I'm deluded? I just showed you evidence. She says, yeah, I've seen the evidence. Doesn't matter. I said, what do you mean it doesn't matter? She says, all that means is we were wrong. I said, so what? You're going to just live with that? And keep on telling people that you're right about everything? And we didn't have any conversations until just basically that was about 10 years ago. Because I had just realized the dragon and so forth. But anyway, getting back to my messages, I got to tell you, all I can tell you is God, Jesus Christ, somebody's talking to me. Because I'm sitting here, just like talking to you, looking at my screen, doing the things I do. I had written a book. Well, I didn't write a book. I wrote another paper. They won't let me publish anywhere. This book I'm going to hold up here. I don't know if you can see it. You see it?
Yes. Where can we get that from? Can we buy that from you?
It's not my book. It's on Amazon. And the deal is, Paul Amatucci writes books. He's done all my stuff. He's got Velikovsky. He's got Electron Flood. He's got Giants. The Sahara. He's written, and I don't have anything to do with it at all. I don't make any money off of it. I don't do any work for it. I don't care. I want him to present it, and they're very nice. They're big, huge text, and there's plenty of room to write for notes and stuff. I don't know. You see it?
Yeah.
And he's got some pictures and this and that in there. And, and they're cheap. I don't know. They're very cheap. They're not much money at all. And there's a paperback. They're nice coffee table books. And they're on Amazon. And all you got to do is look up Mudfossil University or Paul Amatucci. That's the guy. So, this was tough. Nobody would give me wouldn't look at the stuff. So now, here I am sitting here, working at my computer, and I don't know, so I was getting bombarded by, you're an idiot, you're a moron, you have no idea about it. It's on and on and on. And then they started with the flat earther thing. That you gotta, if all of this is true, the earth has to be flat. And that's how academia assaulted me. And they put me into that box. I never could get out. I'm still in the same box. They put you in that algorithm. And that killed me. So, at any rate, I'm sitting here thinking I can't get this word out. They suppressed all my videos to where I was getting no hits. Only people that were there, I'm going to get over that. There was a lot of negativeness, let me put it that way, real negativeness. So I'm sitting here in depression. I'm saying, God, you got the wrong guy. You just made a big mistake. I can't get this done. Nobody's listening. I can't even get my own family to pay any attention. All I'm doing is being assaulted. I'm sitting here doing this 24 hours a day, and nothing's happening. And I swear to God, this is true. I hear from behind me, look in Morocco. And I said, look in Morocco? Where'd that come from? And I turn around, I look around, it's just nothing. The TV was on, but it was on a car commercial. It had nothing to do with Morocco. And so I said, well, something happened there. I don't know what. So I look in Morocco. 15 seconds later, I see the dragon and the fish. And I had never seen them and already had the book or my paper out about Atlantis, which is like an inch below. I've been watching that thing for 2 years. Never saw him. Imagine that?
That's incredible, isn't it?
It is. And
so you're on the right path.
It's got to be. It's got to be, my friend. There is something here. You cannot dismiss a single word now in these ancient texts. The Nag Hammadi texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Kolbrin Bible, Ovid, Hesiod, Apollodorus. I read them all. And the Gospel of Thomas, right in there.
Yes, Thomas, yeah.
Yeah, right in there it says, once you discover the earth, you discover a carcass. And once you discover the earth or the world, you discover the body. And everything in space, our moon is a tendon antithesis. All right? You hearing me? That is microscopic, and it is undeniable. I have the evidence to support that 100%. And all the other moons are too. And they're just releasing today, they're going back, because I've been talking about the chemistry, I've been talking about the anatomy, I've been talking about the layers and the tissues and these craters. They're not craters. And I can show all that stuff too. I have all that stuff if you wanted to do another one about the moons, or we could. I continue now. I got it all. So
I'm struggling to breathe, Roger.
Well, don't die on me. I don't know
if I've got a cold or flu, but
well, let me ask you. Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Do you take probiotics?
No.
Oh, big mistake, brother. Get yourself, and I mean they work within days. Now, within a day or two. You got to take soil-based. I'm not, well, wait, let me stop. This is what I do. And I have studied this for 10 years or more. And we have a lot of observational information about this. You need to get your gut bacteria. How's your digestion been?
Oh, yeah, fine, yeah.
Has your digestion?
I'm never, ever ill.
Yeah, but how is it? Recently, has your digestion been normal?
Yeah, there's no problem at all. I think it's something I picked up. We've just come back from Bath. We were in Bath for a couple of days having a look round, and my wife and I both came back sort of bunged up with a sore throat.
There you go. You could even have COVID too, you know. But my all I have discovered is that if your gut bacteria is correct, that's what produces enzymes. Enzymes are the most important thing in your body, and there's 75,000 of them that they know of. And there's many, many more than that. And what they do is they do chemistry instantly. I'm big into chemistry. An enzyme can break down and do more chemistry and break down more products in 1 second than would happen if you didn't have the enzyme. It would take millions of years to do that same chemistry. The enzyme can do in 1 second. And you only get the enzyme if you got the bacteria. And you only get the bacteria if you don't kill them. They live in communities in your body. And they send out these into that tubular-filled highway that I'm talking about, that I discovered. Yeah. That's your immune system. They didn't even know it existed. And they still don't know what it does. They know it's there now. But outside of that, and they won't communicate with me. I'm trying to get a hold of people. Again, listen, why don't you go and rest yourself, my friend? And we'll oh, you don't sound good, brother. Take care of yourself. I would tell you.
Yeah.
I would go with some soil-based probacteria. I take Primal Defense by Garden of Life. And they are soil-based, which means they can survive through your stomach to get into the places you need them. And I had a friend of mine that was gonna, literally, they told him they couldn't save him. He was having a cytokine storm. He was gonna die. And he ended up taking these soil-based probiotics, and within 2 weeks he was better. He's never been sick since.
God.
Yeah. And they have
That's
trouble.
Incredible.
Yeah, well, they even they have trouble with the astronauts with their digestion up in space, because something's going on wrong with them up there, and they have trouble with it. And they're trying to give them probiotics to fix it, but they won't give them soil-based because I don't know why, they think it's something bad, but so they're not having any good success. So what they're trying now is to freeze their poop before they go to space, so that they can put the poop back into them when they get back to space, so they'll have the bacteria. All we got to do is start using fecal matter transplants. You'd fix, I would say, probably 80% of all the disease, because every disease is invasion. It's invasion, and what is invasion? You don't have the guys to stop it. You don't have the enzymes. You don't have the bacteria to ward off the bad guys. And everything now, you watch, everything you put in any kind of disease whatsoever, and fecal matter transplant, and it'll say it's a promising thing to do, because you don't have the chemistry. You can't do the chemistry. Go take care of yourself.
A lot of people do urine therapy, don't they? Urine therapy is a really big one. Of course, that contains stem cells.
I have a friend that swears by it. I don't do it myself, but I have a friend that swears by it, and he's right. You reabsorb. That's part of this lymph system almost. Urine is almost like lymph system. You have things within that fluid that do work, and it's like the lymph. It does the same thing. The enzymes, the bacterias, and all that stuff circulate through the body, and they do the chemistry. That's the only thing that does chemistry. Your body, oh no, my pancreas does this, my this does this, my thymus does that. No, it doesn't. It doesn't do anything. It's a factory that houses bacteria that does that. The bacteria does all that. It's just got a factory that it uses to do that work. The bacteria is dead, that organ will die, because it will have no protection in its outer fascia. The fascia won't be able to protect it anymore. Then you get invasion. There's 200 cancers. Every one of them is different. Why don't you get cancer in your lungs is the same cancer that you would get in your eyeballs? It's not. It's because of the layer of insulation, which is the membranes, which is the fascia, which is that the immune system is different. There's different fluids in there, different fluids in your eyeballs versus your stomach. Your stomach's got a lot of acids. I can't imagine the bag that surrounds it is the same as the bag that surrounds your heart or the bag that surrounds your, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and what they should be doing is testing for these chemistry. They don't even do a fecal matter swab. You go to the doctor. The first thing they should say is, bring in a fecal matter swab. We'll look and see what your bacteria is looking like in there. If you got something that's missing or you got way too much of something. They do that with cows now. They have collars that they can put around a cow. I swear, I'm not kidding you. They put a collar around a cow, and it can tell how its digestion is going. The other day they had an article. The guy's got hundreds of cows, and he wakes up one morning at 6:30 in the morning or 5:30 in the morning, and he gets a message, cow number 723 is going to get sick. It's not sick yet. It's going to get sick. He goes out, and this is all in the article. He goes out, and within a half an hour, he gives the cow probiotics and warm water. And 30 minutes later, the cow's healthy again.
That's incredible.
Yeah. And all they have to do now, they don't have to check each cow anymore. They just get reports from the ones that are going to be sick, and they're not even sick yet. And then it'll tell them exactly how much milk they have in them, what their temperatures are, you know, everything about them. And they're getting close to 10% more milk by making sure that they digest correct. It's all about digestion. They've got like 4 stomachs, you know. Anyway, listen, I can see you're not feeling well. I don't want to hold you.
I'm struggling a little bit, but I wanted to talk to you because I've wanted to speak to you for so long.
Well, this has been an absolute pleasure. You gave me the floor, and I usually don't get that.
Well, people don't want to hear me. They know, you know, they know my content. They know what I talk about. They read my books. I wanted them to hear you, but what one of the things that really stopped me dead in my tracks was the video you did on the girl that drank silica.
Yeah.
And then started to solidify. And I think it was a newspaper called The Sun that wrote about it. And they were snapping scalpels trying to do the autopsy. And
that's what they reported. Now, some of that stuff is hard to really be certain about. That seems a little hard for me even to accept 100%. However, I do know, no question whatsoever, silica turns into silicon dioxide, which is quartz crystals. Now, I also know that it's possible for something to turn into stone virtually instantly. As Ovid wrote, the gods did it just for fun. Have you ever read, well, probably not read, but do you know about metamorphosis?
Yeah.
All right. The first 2 lines out of 12,000 lines, he says, I'm going to speak of forms changed into new entities, and the victims are usually changed by means of violence into the natural landscape. And that's what the gods did. They made the Garden of the Gods, gigantic things, strangling dragons, and they just for fun. They made mountains, and they could turn anything into anything because they control the particles of matter. Somehow they own these little particles of matter, and they can turn them into anything they want. They, like Ovid said, they could turn themselves into mushrooms or funguses or ants. They could change their sexes. They could turn themselves into planets or come down from being a planet, come down to Earth as a human being, a buff-looking, hot god, to have sex with the hot-looking women who are down here. And that's what happened. And all this stuff, as far as I can determine, that's just factual evidence is supported 100%. And that's what they did. And so and Jesus Christ was the same. He's a God too. And now, he appears, is he God of what God? Because he's God's son, they say. Now, I think Jesus, just my guess, may be Venus. Because he's spoken of in these ancient texts as the morning star.
Yeah.
All right?
As is Lucifer.
Exactly. And God was Zeus, who you could refer to as a Satan, because he was the one who was coming down to have sex with all the women. Who actually, what were they referring to when they were talking about Satan? He was the guy that says, hey, 200 of us are going to come down and just have a sex party. Right? Am I right with that?
Yeah.
And that was Satan, right? Yeah. Now, who was going to become God of this region here, of this solar system. He took it over. And that is Jupiter, who is Zeus, who was God. Out of God was born the fiery comet Venus. Was born. So that is his son, or her son, or whatever, because it's a vagina.
Yeah.
Have you seen the vagina?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on Jupiter. It's a red spot. It's not a storm. It's a vagina. Although some of them can be a little stormy. But anyway, it's a storm. It's a vagina, and out comes Venus. Now, Venus, the son of Jupiter. That's the way I see it. Now, Venus, who was also referred to as the morning star, who was also referred to, Jesus said he was the morning star, something like that. He was referred to as the morning star in some texts. And he also said he fed the earth with his body when they were, and that, I believe, was the placenta. That was a vaginal birth. And Velikovsky records that everybody on Earth had the same story. The thing hit Earth, it was covered with red blood. Blood fell from the skies, and that's what caused these plagues in Egypt and so forth, where they had all the frogs and flies and everything.
Yeah.
It was all festering from the blood that fell. But it also fell manna, which is nothing more than like snow flakes of cookies, like wafers, which is from placenta, and that would have been circling the earth and getting cooked during the day and falling at night, that type of thing, which was the story. And also the umbilical cord, which would have been also common, is made out of billions and trillions of stones, little tiny. Tendon is made out of little blocks, and there are just billions of them, and those fell all over the earth, and all of that stuff was recorded, and the earth basically stood still as the impact of the magnetic fields bounced off of each other. The salacious ooze came up off of the ocean floor, which was miles deep of this stuff, super saturated, and then fell back down again. That's why it's not any more silicon up there like it was then, which created all feldspar is aluminum silicates. All right, aluminum silicates. Feldspar, 100%, and almost all the rocks on Earth are coated with aluminum silicates, which is feldspar, because those are membranes. That's membranes. Aluminum silicates are phospholipid membranes. They boil down, and all that silicon, it's just amazing what's been missed. And it just doesn't want to be seen.
No. But maybe it'll come out. Maybe this will all come out at some point.
Well, it has to.
They can't hide it forever.
They can't. I mean, I thought that too. I thought for sure. Now, when I first started this, I got real upset. I wrote a book about Velikovsky. And here's another one. Here it is right here. He's got them all. Velikovsky. Whoops. You still there?
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I'm knocking something off here. Anyway, oh, here it is right here. There's the book about Velikovsky. And again, that's Paul Amatucci. Now, Velikovsky, most people don't even know who he is. When I first started into this, I couldn't get anybody to pay any attention. And the ones that I talked about, Velikovsky had this, they laughed. Oh, that guy's a nutcase. He wrote the book Worlds in Collision, and it was #1 on a bestseller list for 11 weeks in a row. New York Times bestseller list. It was flying off the shelves like hotcakes. And academics told Macmillan, who was the publisher, that if they didn't retract the book, they would never buy another book from him. They would take and go elsewhere to buy their textbooks. Macmillan retracted the book. And then they assaulted Velikovsky just like they did to me. And so I wrote that book. It's called Velikovsky, it's called Mudfossils and Velikovsky and Minds in Collision. Their minds are in collision with the truth. And I wrote that 10 years ago. It's on Amazon too. That was my book, but it's 99 cents. All you can do is read it. I didn't want to make any money off it. I just wanted to get it up there so that people would start to understand the truth. And that's all I care about, is getting the truth out there. I'm not, you know, I got 233,000, I think, subscribers. But I give almost no hits. And it's they got me in a box that I can't get along with anybody.
You're shadow banned, don't you? They're suppressing.
Yeah. And
it's been happening to me for a while.
Yeah. Well, it just happens to anybody. Like Velikovsky, he was destroyed. Carl Sagan, who is, I can't stand it, the most arrogant person I've ever seen. He went on Cosmos on TV, and he had a show, and he just slaughtered Velikovsky. What an idiot the guy was, you know. How can you, you know, he was just with this little arrogant, you know, he was so suave, you know, how he did it. And he shows how he opens up a flap on Jupiter and out comes Venus. Oh, yes, born from, you know, and he really nasty. And Velikovsky was destroyed his whole life. And he was forgotten. And he's still, if you look up Velikovsky, they'll say, oh, he's a pseudoscientist. He was a psychiatrist. Well, yes, he was. But he also he was a friend of Einstein. He founded the Jewish University or something like that. He was a big shot. And Einstein died with Velikovsky's book open on his bed when he died. Velikovsky talks about things that are real, and I have there's an archive of Velikovsky's stuff. You want to hear a couple minutes of it?
Yeah, sure.
All right, this is good. This is good because if we can get this out there, let me share a screen. Let's see. This is going to be Chromium tab. And we're going to have Velikovsky. Here it is right here. All right, you can see what we got here, right? Velikovsky?
Yeah.
This is staggering. Now, he's talking about Venus and all this. Let's just go to chapter 3, I think, is a good place. I was just looking into this. Listen to this.
Chapter 3. The huracan. The swift shifting of the atmosphere under the impact of the gaseous parts of the comet, the drift of air attracted by the body of the comet, and the rush of the atmosphere resulting from inertia when the Earth stopped rotating or shifted its poles, all contributed to produce hurricanes of enormous velocity and force and of worldwide dimensions. Manuscript Troano and other documents of the Mayas describe a cosmic catastrophe during which the ocean fell on the continent and a terrible hurricane swept the earth. The hurricane broke up and carried away all towns and all forests. Exploding volcanoes, tides sweeping over mountains, and impetuous winds threatened to annihilate humankind, and actually did annihilate many species of animals. The face of the earth changed, mountains collapsed, other mountains grew and rose over the onrushing cataract of water driven from oceanic spaces, numberless rivers lost their beds, and a wild tornado moved through the debris descending from the sky. The end of the world age was caused by huracan, the physical agent that brought darkness and swept away houses and trees and even rocks and mounds of earth. From this name is derived hurricane, the word we use for a strong wind. Huracan destroyed the major part of the human race. In the darkness swept by wind, resinous stuff fell from the sky and participated with fire and water in the destruction of the world. For 5 days, save for the burning naphtha and burning volcanoes, the world was dark, since the sun did not appear. The theme of a cosmic hurricane is reiterated time and again in the Hindu Vedas and in the Persian Avesta, and diluvium venti, the deluge of wind, is a term known from many ancient authors. In the section The Darkness, I quoted rabbinical sources on the exceedingly strong west wind that endured for 7 days when the land was enveloped in darkness, and the hieroglyphic inscription from El Arish about 9 days of upheaval when there was such a tempest that nobody could leave the palace or see the faces of those beside him, and the 11th tablet of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which says that 6 days and a night the hurricane, deluge, and tempest continued sweeping the land, and mankind perished almost altogether. In the battle of the planet god Marduk with Tiamat, he, Marduk, created the evil wind, and the tempest, and the hurricane, and the fourfold wind, and the sevenfold wind, and the whirlwind, and the wind which had no equal. The mountain, dense, dark, fiery, wildly drifting, wildly bursting, rushed on creation. In their midst, Tahwiri Matia, father of winds and storms, and swept away giant forests and lashed the waters into billows whose crests rose high like mountains. The earth groaned terribly.
You want to sort of cut it here, Roger?
Sure.
That's only because I've clocked it 55 minutes long, and I'm sort of struggling to breathe still, so I think we're going to have to call it a day.
Yeah, well, I'm happy to have the opportunity to show you this stuff, my friend. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you coming on. A lot of people have been waiting to see you. So Mudfossil University is where they need to come to look at all of your work. But I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, great. Yeah, and thank you. I appreciate it, Guy. And again, I'd love to discuss other things with you.
Oh, crikey.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, let's do it again soon.
Absolutely. I'm with you, brother. All right.
Thank you.
Go take care
thanks again, Roger. Thanks for your time today.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir. All right.
I'm going to go and blow my nose now.
All right. Take care.
Take care, my friend.
Get better. I hope you're the best. I would get some, soil-based probiotics.
I've made a note of that.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care, and thanks again, Roger.
All right. Bye-bye.